Hey girl, you're tuned into the Grace Code podcast. I'm your host Lisa, and this is a show all about unlocking Jesus in the everyday. What's the everyday? Well, it's things like your faith, career, relationships, health, and so much more. I pray that this podcast leaves you inspired and passionate to find Jesus as you go about your everyday and encourages you to step out of your comfort zone and step into the things that God is calling you to. Welcome back to the Grace Code, everyone, a show all about unlocking Jesus in the everyday. I'm your host, Lisa, and today I have the best girl that I know, Sylvia, joining us again for this episode. So it's going to be super fun. And if you haven't tuned into the last episode when we were together, head to it. It was pretty funny.
It was hilarious.
It was a good time. It was a good time. So I guess just to give you all a little bit of context, we are both from Melbourne and we are in our second stint of lockdown due to COVID. So we've had to get a bit creative with our recording, which has been fun. Bit of trial and error from like the other side of the town.
Yeah.
The town.
The city. Literally, I think we're on the other side of the city. You're on the other side and I'm on the west.
We're probably about, 45 minutes away from each other?
2 an hour, depending on traffic.
Yeah. So how are you coping with it all? We've only kind of just started it. So I've probably been in it just for a few days now. But yeah, how are you coping?
I think that I was so excited to kind of get out of the first wave. And I was like, oh yeah, cool. We can get back on track, obviously take the necessary precautions. But, when you're at home all day with your whole family, you start to get a bit crazy. So to have that freedom was amazing. And then the government was just like, nah, cases are rising way too high for Victoria. Back in we go. So I was so excited to, go to the Grace Code studio and do, the next episodes. But
yeah, I know.
Can't really do much about that, can we?
I know. I mean, like you popped in for the last episode because we were out of our restrictions.
Yeah.
So that was really fun having you in the studio and kind of just being face to face and bouncing off each other.
Such a different environment when you get to actually see the person.
Totally. So we're currently on a Zoom call at the moment recording this. So we have gotten very creative and a lot of trial and error to make sure it's all going to go smoothly. Testing. So that's been fun. But I think what's been really cool is that you are going to be on here quite a fair bit.
Yeah. Which is super cool.
It's so exciting.
Usually, because I think I'm pretty sure I said it in the previous one that I've never done podcasts before. Like I've never done a podcast. So it's just such a whole new world, podcasts, compared to like Zoom sessions or writing blogs, things like that. So it's just a whole nother world. And it was so fun. Like it was literally fun. Just having coffee with your best friend and chatting away. It was awesome.
100%. And that is what our aim is here at the Grace Code, is that we're going to be having coffee with you while you're on your walk, doing some exercise or whatever else you do during your day. So make sure you have grabbed your cuppa and are getting comfy because today our episode is going to be super fun because I'm going to interview Sylvia.
Yay!
So we thought with her coming on for a few episodes, it would be so good for you guys out there to learn a bit more about her backstory and what she's doing. So are you excited?
I am. It's always a little nerve-wracking talking about yourself. So let's just see how we go with this one.
I know. Look, if the last one was anything to go by, I'm not that good at talking about myself either.
You were great.
So we'll see. We'll see how we go. I'm sure you'll be amazing. So I think let's just start off with maybe giving a bit of background about yourself. Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
So I'm Sylvia. I wear a lot of hats. I wear a lot of hats in my life. So I'm 20 something. I'm going to say 20. We're going to say some things because, you know, age
Yes,
is just a number, but it's nice for people to know, I guess, how far in life you are. So I'm in my 20 somethings. I am Australian, as obviously you can tell by my very Australian accent, but I'm not Australian like background. I'm Egyptian, so I'm of Middle Eastern heritage. And as I said before, I do wear many hats. So I am a business director. I run a branding and web agency. I also run and do multiple other projects. I also have just started with my sisters a women's ministry called Tear the Veil. So we've just started that a few months ago. And I also do a lot of traveling and business consulting, marketing, social media. There's a lot of different things that I do. But born again Christian, raised in a Christian church, lived and grew up in all-night prayer meetings. So, you know, the spiritual dimension and all sorts of other, you know, in-depth stuff I'm kind of aware of. So, you know, we used to see all that stuff. Yeah, very familiar with it. I'm one of 4 children. I'm one of the middle children. So I kind of side with the middle child syndrome thing. Yes, I'm just like one of those. But yeah, that's kind of like me in a little bit of a nutshell. I guess I can always go into my interests, but that's the next question, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, I was going to ask, out of all these hats that you wear, what would be your favorite?
Okay, so probably industry-wise, I've always loved events. So one of my previous things that I used to do, we'll probably go into this a little bit later on, but I used to do a lot of editorial styling. So I used to professionally style for magazines and different publications. So the type of styling was literally very creative. It wasn't your standard, this is what I wear to work today. It was like, where did that come from? Like, what is that? Where did that create? It was something that came out of a movie. So that was one of the things that I enjoyed the most. And one of my recent ones that I absolutely love is Tear the Veil. It's just, that was kind of born from a dark place, but it was where I felt the most comfortable and where I felt I belonged the most. So I think that, as well as the whole styling, when it came to editorial, the editorial aspect, that was my favorite for sure.
Yeah. Wow. So I guess, like you said, you were raised as a Christian, been to the all-night prayer meetings, had like, you know, familiar with it all. But I guess, how did you come to personally know God? Because it's so interesting that we can be raised in that kind of sphere and know who God is and what he's all about. But it's so different than when we have that personal encounter with him.
Yeah, 100%. It's almost like when you're forced to follow this specific path, it's totally different to you actually experiencing it. So 100%, you know, get it. We always had that faith instilled in us as young children. And obviously we stray and we want to experience the world and all sorts of stuff. I didn't really have something like that go on where I was just not lost, but I just kind of stepped away and, you know, didn't want anything to do with it. I encountered God a lot when I was younger, but there was always that religious aspect to it where I had to go to church because, you know, my parents told me that I had to. And then it got to a point in my teens where, you know, when you're a teenager, there's a lot of weird things that happen. But I always made sure that I had like my roots in either a church, that I was going to church, I was going to group meetings or cell group meetings. So I just always made sure that I was around Christian environment, people, not really Christian, but faith faith-based
Yeah.
people and things like that. But where it really got me was when I slightly stepped away from the church, not necessarily stepped away from my faith, but I stepped away from the church. That was as soon as I got out of my teens. It was, there was a really disheartening incident that happened, and it was where people put their priorities and their love and desire for title and for recognition just kind of bypassed the real message and the real reason why they were there. So it was really disheartening because I was at the other end of that, and I was the teen trying to serve. So I was really heavily involved. I was one of the, not one, but I was just, I was in a lot of smaller like assisting positions because of my age and things like that. But this happened and it kind of stopped me in my tracks, and I'm like, I can't believe these people are doing this to me. And it was it was just really upsetting. But when I stopped and I took a back step away from the church because I was just didn't want to be in this type of organization. Over the years, it was a lot of trial and error and being run over and being stepped upon in the world. Now that I was out into this world and I was trying to figure out, is God really the way or is he not? There was just so many times where I fell and I got back up again, and that really strengthened my relationship. So my bond really was cemented during the time I stepped away from the church. That was a really long answer, but in a nutshell, it was when I took a step back from the church because I was defined by the church the whole time.
Totally.
So,
and that I think is such an easy slippery slope to be where you get in this position, and not really a position, but you're constantly like serving and being relied upon. And so it becomes that works rather than building your faith. And so it's always kind of keeping yourself in check. As well. And it's so easy to slip into that. And I'm sorry that whole incident happened to you. But have you found, like, going on that journey, did you find that missing that community, like that church organization aspect?
Yes, 100%. Because on Sundays, like, my parents were pretty hardcore. They were intercessors in two different churches. So in the morning, we'd go to our when I was really young, it used to be the English church in the morning, and then we used to go to the Arabic church because they used to have an Arabic community because of their language. So in the morning, we'd go to the English church and then the Arabic church. And then later on, obviously times change, we were doing it the opposite way. So we'd have the Arabic church in the morning, and then we'd quickly drive to the city to go to the English church. So it was always like we were around people and we were constantly having people over. Mum loved to cook, as you can imagine, in Middle Eastern.
She does.
So we always had people over. We always had pastors, leaders, even just friends of ours. We loved fellowshipping, and it was such a huge part because without people, sometimes it just feels like you can't really, it's like when one puts one to flight, two can put 10,000. So it just feels like when you have people that you can do so much more, and you can receive things that you might not be able to receive when you're on your own. Yeah. So fellowship was a huge thing, and it was something that I totally missed. And throughout that time, it was almost like you miss that. You really do miss that. Yeah.
And I think that's so important, that aspect of community and fellowship, because we're created for community. And I actually read a really great book it's a Christian book called Created for Community. And it was actually brilliant. So I would recommend to anyone who is, especially now while we're in this like isolation, lockdown, depending on where you are in the world at the moment, getting that and just reminding yourself that this isn't how it's going to be forever. Yeah. Because if you are Christian, you know that we win anyway. So we're created for community and just fellowship, and it's so important to be a part of a church, as you've said now, that, things can happen, and it's happened to me where, you might not leave on the best of circumstances, but God's going to like heal and bring about an even better blessing as you continue to journey on with him. So that was really in-depth, and thanks for sharing and being vulnerable about that, because I'm sure it would have been, something to really journey and heal from. and stuff.
Yeah, it definitely was. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So I guess let's go on a bit of a lighter note, maybe.
Sure.
And going back to your career, because you are quite young still, but you've had such an amazing career in terms of business and styling and everything. And now Tear the Veil, which don't forget to give us a little shout out about where our listeners can find you guys. So yeah, tell us a bit about that journey and what brought you to Tear the Veil, really.
Yeah, that's a long journey. So when I was in high school, I always set my sights on studying, and not just studying anything random, but studying business specifically. And there was a specific course that I wanted to get in, and I was gunning for it. So I remember printing it out, that specific course, putting it on my wall, and I was like declaring that I was going to get it.
Awesome.
And I did. I ended up getting into it before I even went into my exam. So it was a done deal. So I went into exams. I was like, yeah, I got this. God's got my back. Yeah, I got it. So
awesome.
So I went in and I studied business, and I loved it. I really did love it. Yeah. When I got out of it, I didn't really use it. I went straight into corporate finance, which is kind of weird. Yeah. But throughout when I was doing corporate finance, when I was a teen, actually, I was serving in church, and I used to do a lot of guest services. So I used to do a lot of that. I was at one point the youngest person to lead a group.
Wow.
In one of the big, yearly events that they had on, and I used to take care of around 500 in my group, I believe it was.
Oh, wow.
It was the biggest team. Yep. So it was a big responsibility, but the people there knew, she's just an events pro. So I had that love for events in the background. So I constantly was doing.
So I was going to say, what a way to share your gifting. Amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. And everyone was like, oh yeah, that's just Sylvia. So it was something that I absolutely loved. And I used to do that every year. Every year I used to go in and be like, what's this you're going to bring? So I used to just have that love. So I had that events thing in the background, and I kept doing it all throughout uni. I used to take time off uni to actually go and serve. And then I also had I started to have this love of just events in general, business events, weddings.
Yeah, wow.
Just different types of...
What a different scale.
Events.
Business to weddings.
Business to... I haven't even started, honey.
Fill us in. Give us the tea.
So I did. I loved events, and I did start to have a random love for couture. So it was really weird, but things that are handmade, handmade fashion. Yep. And there was a specific time or a specific project I was on helping my brother. So my brother did play a huge part in the way that I learned business and I experienced business.
Yeah, wow.
So he himself is an entrepreneur, and he has been able to jump into different industries, find out what he loved. And I thought that's a great way for me to find out what I want to do as well.
Awesome.
Because at that time I knew I wanted to be in business, but I just had no idea where. It's such a huge thing that a lot of people at that time don't know what they're doing, or they don't know where to fit in.
Because you've got business, but then you've got so many branches of what business is and where do you fit in and what do you enjoy. Because it was the same in high school. I looked at doing business and went into business management and things, and I was like, oh, I actually hate this.
Yeah, that's so true, because there's so many facets to it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I thought, while I'm young, I have to just try
100%.
as much as I can out, so I know that I've tried everything and I know what I like and what I don't like. So that was a huge part. So I was lucky enough that my brother had a product launch and for one of his products. So I went to the photo shoot, and this was the first time that I was actually in a proper photo shoot.
Yeah.
And when I went in, I was just, it was like I immersed myself into that whole environment. Yeah. I was going to say vibe, but it was just like that environment.
Such a vibe.
And it was such a vibe, but it was such a vibe. And I loved it. I loved not the whole sourcing, but putting things together and creating something like just creating an image that lasts so long beyond you.
Yep.
So something that actually stands the test of time.
Sure. Wow.
So I absolutely loved it. And I've started to realize that a lot of that was creative direction and styling. So then that's when I ended up studying styling as well next to my corporate finance job. And then that's when I started to pick up and do a lot of events, specifically fashion runways and expos. So that was a huge part of my life at that time. So I used to actually get asked to either do an event or to run a expo or to help out and assist. So that was a huge thing as well. And then I started doing a lot of styling. I realized that whole creative aspect of editorial styling was where what I absolutely loved. So I used to get asked by photographers all the time, you know, are you free? Can you style this shoot for me? I'm trying to get into this publication. So I got published a few times.
Amazing. How did I not know this?
It was kind of, I didn't really advertise it a lot because I'm just not although I work in social media, I just don't like being on social media.
I get that. I totally get that.
Which is really, it's crazy. But yeah, I ended up loving that. And a lot of this work kind of gained some attention regarding my full-time job. So they were very, very flexible with what days I could take off. They were like, you have an expo? I'll go. Oh, you've got a runway? Yeah, go. So they loved the fact that I was doing that.
That's so good.
And then I got picked up by a fashion company who wanted me to work with them. So I think I applied with them a very long time ago, and they must have kept my resume on hand and they saw that what I was doing. So then they kind of messaged me going, we have a position. Can you please come in to interview? So I was like, sure. Yeah. So I went with them for a bit, and that was a local fashion house.
Right.
So I was with them for a few years as well, and that's kind of when I developed a lot of marketing, social media skills, and that's where I really honed in on the marketing and branding side of everything.
Yeah, wow.
So now I do multiple other projects and businesses and work alongside other things or other people as well. And then I had an amazing opportunity to travel. I actually ended up leaving the fashion place. It just was my time to leave.
Totally.
Mentally, spiritually, emotionally.
Just end of a season.
I was just end of a season for me. That's the perfect way to put it. And I had this amazing opportunity because I was starting a business with my brother. And I thought, this is the time. This is the time. And then, ended up traveling, and it's just a whole nother world out there, especially in the Middle East. So we traveled to the Gulf to do some business with some heavy people. And look, God takes you places and he pushes you out of your comfort zone so 100%. You can develop and become a better person. Because I think without that trip, I wouldn't be the person that God wanted me to be.
Yep.
So I ended up traveling a decent amount, and then God kind of called us back. Oh, and Corona. Corona told us to come back too. and while I was overseas, I really felt a need and a calling, not a calling. I just felt so desperate.
Yep.
There was just some really difficult things that happened during that time, but I was so desperate for God and desperate to just reconnect with him in a way unlike anything else. So Tear the Veil was really not necessarily birthed, but it really did start its journey from there.
Yep. Wow. Well, it sounds like you went through a lot.
Yeah, a lot of different industries and avenues and things like that.
But it sounds like you've lived an exciting life for your young age, traveling the world and working with like high fashion brands and things. And I thought, if for people listening that may want to get into that type of industry, like how did you learn to network with like photographers, and how did they find you? Was it just really randomly over social media, or was it through a school that you studied at? And things like that.
So when I got into, as in fashion or events or
look,
everything?
Let's go everything.
I would highly, highly recommend, I guess, paying your dues right at the beginning. So volunteering or
100%.
interning, getting getting that, just trying to figure out whether that's for you or not before searching for something that's paid.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing. So volunteer. If you can try and get, if there's like an application online for you to fill it out.
Yep.
Volunteer, just pay your dues right at the beginning. And then when you're there, network, talk to people. It's when we say network, it's not like, hi, my name is Sylvia, I run blah, blah, blah. Like it's, no, be yourself. Like talk to someone like they're your friend. Like get to know them on that level, because when you talk to people, you need to make sure that you leave a memorable impression, that when they come to think about that event later on, they'll be like, oh, I remember seeing Sylvia. What did she do? Oh, she's a stylist, or she was in the event industry, or she loved doing this. Maybe I'll contact her and see. So a lot of the times it was really just talking to people, being like, hey, I love your work. Let's follow each other on Instagram or Facebook. So it's all about just talking to people, not like we get so scared of that network word.
100%.
So let's just talk to people, try finding a connection with them. Tell them that you really like their work. Don't obviously fangirl, because that's a bit full on. It's a bit full on. But intern, as I said, intern, kind of pay your dues and just talk to people. And there are communities online. So for example, here in Melbourne, we've got a lot of different Facebook groups for creatives.
Yeah, wow.
So you can jump on there, and I would highly recommend, if you're doing one of those creative things, like within the photo shoot environment or scheme of things, you're a photographer or you're a model or you're a stylist or you're a hair and makeup, anything really, try and organize something for free. So try and organize like a TFP shoot or like
what's a TFP?
A time for print.
Great.
So TFP is,
don't know what that means.
Time for print. So it's literally everyone does and provides their services for free in order to get either images, or they might get product, but they do get something to build their portfolio.
Yeah, amazing.
So then they can go, hey guys, this is my portfolio. So free stuff at the beginning, build a portfolio and talk to people.
Amazing.
Talking to people is really huge.
Yeah,
it's key.
Funny that's key. Actually, what I love is you said that build connection. And I think it's so important to build meaningful connections when you're trying to network, rather than these kind of, lack of a better term, fake ones of just going up to someone going, I love your work, but actually having no idea what they do. So like
do you know how many times that has happened?
So, try and suss out who might be going to this event and learn about their work and actually find something meaningful that you can have a conversation with them and stuff. Yeah.
That is a huge thing, because whenever you go to events, you'll have those key people where they'll not come up to me, but they'll go up to them and they'll be like, imagine that. They'll go up to them and be like, oh my God, like, can I please take a picture? And that's all it is at the end of the day. They don't care about you. They just want what makes them look good on social
100%.
media or in front of media publications. If you can build that connection where no one else is building. So if you're actually genuinely asking about maybe a piece of work that they did, build that connection that no one else is building, because everyone's going to just be like, they're going to want like
just the photos,
just the mediocre thing. They're just going, oh my God, I love you. Can I have a hug? Oh my gosh, your work is amazing. Oh my God, you're so pretty. Can I take a photo with you? It's like, let's just actually like talk to them. They're humans too. Yeah.
So good.
So I think people forget that. People really forget that we're humans. All of us.
100%. And I think that's such great advice for anyone that's stepping out into that area and just looking to, build some confidence even, and just going out of the networking zone and building meaningful connections instead. So really awesome advice. Like what you've heard so far? Make sure you never miss an episode by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible because of listeners like you. Thanks for your support. Now let's get back to the show. So you spoke about like two things specifically, your season ending at the local fashion brand and then traveling overseas and kind of getting called back. And I thought, amongst all of that and even just your journey with church and everything as well, do you have any regrets that have come up in that season?
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't have regrets? I have so many regrets, but would I go back and redo them? No, I wouldn't. I think there's a huge difference between whether we regret something, whether we regret it enough to go back and actually redo it. But I think that if I didn't make those mistakes and I didn't learn about them and I didn't learn why I did them, the consequences are just as powerful.
Yeah, wow.
And just to know that what you did back then was wrong or was incorrect right now made me way more of a better person than me going, okay, cool, I'm just going to move on. Like, screw it. Like, don't worry about it. Heaps of stuff that I regret. Like, let's just say that. There was heaps of stuff that I regret, but I wouldn't go back and redo any of them.
Which is amazing because I think earlier you said, you know, if you didn't walk through those seasons, you wouldn't have learned the lessons, you wouldn't have grown, and you wouldn't be the person who you are today. So I think that's really encouraging that, we can walk through some crappy seasons, but know that you're going to survive. You're going to come out of the other side fine and a better person for it in the end. And, you know, you're taking on Tear the Veil now, which I'm sure you probably wouldn't have been able to if you didn't walk through those seasons and learn what you did in them.
100%. So I was actually battling, it actually happened while I was traveling. I ended up getting really sick overseas and it kind of just flipped me over there. Like it just shook my world. I ended up getting really, really bad mental health and was just ill for like a solid year and I didn't know what was wrong and it was just so scary. And I was just taking on a management position in this fashion place and I just couldn't do it. Like I'm such a go-getter. Like if you know me, as you know, every weekend I'm like, I've got a runway I need to do.
I know.
We're doing
we
tonight.
Could barely catch up sometimes because you were just always busy and I was like, girl, come on, what are you doing? That's awesome.
I loved that. I didn't want to stay still. There was always something to explore, something to achieve. Not that I was all about achieving stuff. I just wanted to experience it and really feel like I loved doing what I was doing. But there just came to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. My mental health couldn't allow me. My body physically couldn't allow me. And I just had to stop and be like, guys, I can't do this anymore. And it was such a hard time.
Wow.
But for me going through that was a time where I tried to seek God so much because I was like, doctors can't even tell me what's going on. I don't know what's going on with my body and with my brain and everything. And I finally, after however many years, it probably would have been what I want to say maybe 7 years, I stepped back into the church and I was like, God, I need you now more than ever. And that was when I went into a church service. I think it was the first one I went into. And amazingly, we were in, the usher took us in and they're like, oh, there's some seats. Okay, please, somewhere near the back. And he's like, well, there's a seat in the third row. And I'm like, oh, come on.
He'll always get you.
So we were literally, he'll always do it. And it was a guest speaker. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I love guest speakers. I love them. So we went in there and he, right at the beginning, before he even started speaking, he had to do this. He goes, there is a word that God has given me for someone specifically here that doesn't necessarily come here. And I just stopped and I was like, oh,
here we go.
Oh, like, here we go. I'm like, God, what do you have planned now? And he's like, this person is going to be birthing a ministry here. And you've been asking God all these years, what can I do? What can I do? And he
goosebumps.
He is saying to you that God's going to use what is currently in your hands.
Wow.
And at that moment, I stopped and I paid attention and I was like,
oh, that is me.
And then all of a sudden, I kid you not, it was like and this is weird, but I was in a trance. Like
Holy
I was
Spirit
not in my
just
body. I was not in my body. I phased out for a solid few minutes. It was like an out of body experience. I went numb. I could not see anything. It was just like my body, weird. My spirit just went and levitated for a bit. And it was just I was just in awe. I don't know what happened, but I was just in awe. And at one point my sister turned around and she was like, Sil,
you all right?
And she was like, okay, whatever. Or I felt like a nudge or something. And I'm just like, I didn't know what was happening. And I came back out of it and I was just like, what was that? And I was literally like, what was that?
Wow.
And I was just on a whole nother level. And from there, I was like, that was the answer I've been waiting, because I don't have any, not giftings, but
stop.
I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't draw, I can't paint. I don't really have any talents when it comes to that
Says the
stuff.
girl who does events.
Hold on. I don't have any physical talent. So I can't turn raw materials into something beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, so I never had that type of thing. Whereas systems, processes, things like that, 100% I can do. And that also kind of taught me as well that we don't necessarily have to be able to create things in order for God to use us.
So good.
And that was what I was struggling with for so many years, is that my brother can design. He can design so well. My mum can cook. My dad can fix things. My younger sister can turn something amazing with her giftings. My other sister can do that. But I was like, I can draw you a stick figure.
Where's the creative genes in me? I get that.
That's what I was like. I was like, where are the creative genes in me? Like, I cannot draw. I can't sing. I can't even dance. I can't do those physical things where I can transform either, I don't know, my body or the raw ingredients in front of me into something beautiful. So I was just like, God, like, what? How am I of worth? How am I useful? And that was kind of when he hit me going, yeah, but you've got more than you know right now in your hands that you can currently use. And there was a post that I put up, and it was the exact same thing that God said to me. I put it up in that post, and it ended up trending on our hashtag.
Oh, wow.
Set. God's currently using what's in your hands, and that was exactly word for word what happened. And so from there, I was asking. I didn't ask. From there, I said to my sister, I told her I had to sit on it for a bit and think, was this really God? Come on, Sylvia. Like, it was that was not a human experience. That was just that was supernatural.
100%.
And so from there, it was just like, okay, cool. So how am I going to start this? And I was like, I need a name for it. And I was telling my sister exactly what happened. And one of the phrases that I was saying, or I kept saying, was when I was explaining that experience that I had while I was sitting there, I said to her, it was almost like he tore the veil. And she stopped and her eyes just expanded. She goes, that's it. She goes, that's it. Tear the veil. And I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I love it.
Okay. And then I went away, and then I don't know what happened, but it was just like, oh my God, it's tear the veil. I think I was reading something and it just popped up in the Bible. It must have been a Matthew 27 thing. And then it came up and I was like, I think that's it. So then that's kind of where it started. But then I just sat on it for a very long time. Yeah.
Wow, what a story behind it. Yeah, that's incredible. I'm a bit speechless. I was getting goosebumps a few times.
I didn't actually tell you
I haven't heard that story.
Ah.
So I was a bit like, whoa. Getting goosebumps and everything. Like, Holy Spirit is amazing. When he moves, he moves.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, like, would you have any advice for our listeners out there that might be going through like a similar journey that you've been through?
Yeah, keep focus. Yeah. So no matter what's going on around you, I had a lot of friends during this time who were either getting engaged, getting married, settling down, buying houses. I had a lot of other people doing a lot of things during that time. And when I was trying to either figure out what was going on, or I really wanted to, I don't know, be healed of whatever I was going through, or I was trying to find a reason as to why I'm on this earth and why I'm actually, worthy. A lot of the times it came from comparing myself to other people.
Okay.
And that need was there because I constantly was like, oh, this person's doing this and I haven't received my healing so I can move on with my life. Or, this person just started this ministry or this business and I'm still here trying to figure out what I'm doing with my life. So a lot of the times I just didn't have that focus. So a big thing is keep focus, have a goal or have a vision and really go with it. And just because you don't receive what it is that you want right now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get it in the long run. So just keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and hold on. Like, hold on to his word, hold on to his promise, and hold on to hope, because hope is really what gets us through it all.
Amen.
Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that I didn't do was to surround myself with good people, because I think if I did, I might have gone or arrived at my destination sooner.
Wow.
But I'm happy with the journey because I learned so much. So it would be to stay focused and keep your eyes ahead of you, on God, mostly, on God. But keep your eyes ahead of you.
That's some incredible advice and lessons that, you've shared. Do you think coming out of this experience, and even when you were walking through it, that people may have misunderstood you in any way? And if so, how?
Yeah, not a lot of people, but there were times where people always thought that my priorities were different. So during that time, as a Middle Easterner, a lot of the times our parents might force you to look for partners or get married or have kids. And I wasn't about that life just yet.
Your youth.
I wanted to really run. I knew there was something else in my life that I was here for. Like, it was more than just, I'm going to get married and have kids. So a lot of the times there was a lot of assumptions about why I didn't want to get married or why I didn't want to live a normal lifestyle, a 9-to-5 lifestyle, or a lifestyle buying a house in Australia and living here for the rest of my life. So there was assumptions about that. There was assumptions about my character, my personality. People were like, either there's something wrong with her, like she's just bouncing from one thing to another. People might think that I was just selfish. There was a lot of assumptions that people made, but a huge thing was, I guess, that I just wasn't content with where I was. I was always onto something else. I was always trying to find not find the nearest or jump on the next trend, but there was just always something more. And I was just trying to find what it was. And a lot of people were like, she either has like a ADHD, like she can't stay still. She can't focus on one thing. She has to keep going to the next thing. There was a lot of unfortunate misunderstandings that have happened. And as a result, friends have been lost. A lot of communication has been broken down. Yeah. So it's definitely a yes, but you don't dwell on them.
Do you think that thing that you were looking for was literally, that moment with God?
Yeah, it was. It was almost like the search. Like, I was just trying to search for that, but for him, sorry. But I think it wouldn't have come beforehand when I was in the church. There's a totally different hunger when you're content. It's totally different to when you're starving and when you have nothing else to go. It's like a desperation, and once you find it, you don't let go. So there was that, and there was also, I wanted to be fulfilled in what God called me to do, in what I actually love to do. So fulfillment, it's a huge thing, and no relationship can fill that. No baby can fill that, because it's something, it's a God-given, or it's a God,
that calling
hold in my life. It's that calling that 100%. You need to fill.
I know I've always kind of had this thought of like, I don't want to, die and face God and him being like, well, you didn't do what I called you to do. You did 1,000 other things. And I was like, okay. So it's kind of just always reframing and coming back to that place with him and that intimate relationship with him, going, okay, what have you called me to do? And, there might be people out there that are on that journey going, Lord, what have you called me to do? And it's literally take it one day at a time, take it day by day, love each other, love one another, love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's literally like, and go and make disciples. That is the commission. Like, if you don't know what else to do, start there.
Yeah, that's 100. Yeah, that's 100% true. That's what he did call us to do. So,
Wow.
Yeah, that's great.
So let's maybe chat a bit more about Tear the Veil and what you girls do, and don't forget to let us know where we can find you, because you guys are doing some amazing things.
Yeah, so Tear the Veil is a platform for women of all walks of life, specifically for women who already know Christ and who have been following him. Even for people who are, who don't know about him, it's also a great platform as well. It's just a platform and a community to be able to support women through a whole bunch of different resources. So we do have, or we are, it's still kind of in the making. It's a pretty big, big project, but we're working on it. So we've got resources like our blog post. We've got a whole resources page with freebies that you can download, a lot of downloadable PDFs, ebooks, things like that. We have a shop page and a directory page that's going to be coming soon, and a lot of collaborations in the works. So it'll just be a place where you can be encouraged, feel supported, access God's word, receive, inspirational tips and words from him every day. So we are on Instagram and Facebook at the moment. So we are just Tear the Veil AU on both handles. And we are slowly starting to release some little bits and pieces on our social media, but hopefully that blog will be up or the website will be up. So we'll actually seem official.
I know the feeling. It's kind of like, there's so much work that goes on behind the scenes with setting stuff up.
There is.
Then once it's launched and ready to go, it's an amazing feeling. So I guess, when is that launch looking to maybe happen? Can we get a sneak preview?
Oh Lord, probably towards the end of August, start of September. Soon. So there's still I was going to say still like a little bit off. It's we're trying. It's a huge platform. So it's not just like a blog. There's so many other elements to it. There's so many other pages and plugins and things like that we have to incorporate, and a lot of praying and working on resources as well, because it's not just myself. So even though I guess I birthed it, my two sisters have actually joined and jumped along, because it was just like it just felt like it was a bit more that I could handle. I think I don't think I could do it alone, and my sisters, one older and then one younger. So perfect. Middle child.
Kind of all walks of life, all types of advice.
But we are all walks of life. Like my older sister is married with twin girls, so she's a mother, and my younger sister is younger, and she's engaged, and she is, she's not 100% sure what she's doing with her life, and I'm kind of the middle one, the single one, traveling, business minded, mental health conscious. So it's everyone has different walks of life, different things that we can bring to the table and share. And we all do love supporting women, and women's ministry has always been at the forefront of all of our minds and hearts. So this is something that we all have collaborated together.
Incredible.
And whatever we give 100% of ourselves. So those posts, some of them, it was a dark time when I wrote them. So it's all raw. And I think during this, especially this time, we need things that are a bit more raw, things that are authentic, that come from the heart, and we can kind of, no pun intended, but tear the veil on certain things that we are going through, and to be able to make more of a closer connection to God. So it's all about getting closer to him. So tearing that veil, whatever that is, over your life, so you can get closer to God. So that was our huge thing, and that was what I was going through.
I think that's such an incredible name, because we all know, like, when Jesus was on that cross, what happened? That veil was torn. And so I think that is just an incredible name to sum up that relationship that he wants to have with us, where we just go deeply into his throne room and just take away that veil. It's really great.
It's such a God thing. Like, it's such a God thing, and it gives you goosebumps sometimes, because you're like, I physically can't think of these things, so I don't understand how he just drops it into your spirit, and you're like,
I've had many of those moments where I'm like, I know nothing about this yet. I'm writing pages on it, and I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, what?
It's not you, honey.
I know. Praise Jesus for that, because without him, I don't know what I would be doing.
100%.
So I guess one more little question is, what does the future hold for you now?
For me, the future at the moment is that I'm still going to be confined in these four walls until the second wave goes by.
There.
And there are multiple other projects, but my main focus is on, as I think I briefly mentioned before, the agency that my brother and I run. So that gives us a lot of leeway and a lot of opportunity internationally. So there is going to be a lot of travel here and around the world, as well as Tear the Veil. So I really do believe that Tear the Veil, it's not a me thing, and that's I think what people have to understand is that it's coming from me, but it's such a God thing that I believe God will just, it's just going to be widespread, that God just has that. He's just going to, it's just going to go crazy. Like I can't fathom what I feel behind this, and I don't really feel it often. So when I back something, I back it knowing, okay, I 100% know that this is not a human thing. It's a very God ordained ministry. So I do feel that a lot of people will come across Tear the Veil. If not, I'm hoping they come across a platform that is like it, that they can join. But a lot of traveling, a lot of business, a lot of Tear the Veil, and I'll be on here a lot. So get used to my voice.
I'm so excited for our future episodes. It's going to be so 100%, good.
So good.
So good. So it was, super fun having you join me today and letting our listeners learn a little bit more about you. And I also found out some interesting facts at the same time.
That we haven't actually talked about.
So that was really awesome. So thanks everyone for joining us for today's episode. We will be back next week with something new to chat about. So have the best week. Thanks so much for joining us this week on the Grace Code podcast. This show is made possible because of listeners like you. If you want to find out more about the Grace Code, head over to our Instagram at the.gracecode and say hello. If you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss an episode, and be sure to tune in next Wednesday when we drop our next show. Until then, have a beautifully blessed week.